What is up, guys? My name is Bryce Pruitt, this is the M1 Journey, and welcome to the channel. Alright guys, and welcome back to episode 3 of the M1 Journey. Actually, the past week was a pretty good one, all things considered. Had pretty good gains steadily in my portfolio, as well as the Dow Jones and NASDAQ and S&P were all up for the week. I think things are starting to look up after most of September was pretty rocky, which I think a lot of people are glad to see. I mean, really, with the way the pandemic has hit the economy and the way there's been a lot of uncertainty with a few things regarding that I think we're really in a good position to finally get back to those highs we saw pre-COVID in February especially. I think as we move forward, we might be able to see a little bit more stability, especially if Congress is able to pass another stimulus package, which would be good. But yeah, I'm very pleased with what I've seen this past week. And so as far as what's new with the channel, please feel free to check out the Twitter and Instagram page I mentioned last week, both at bpruitt_YT. Just a way for you guys to stay up to date with the latest content, as well as being up to date with what I'm thinking, what I'm doing when I'm not posting videos. So yeah, go ahead and feel free to check those out. And before we get into the portfolio, just want to make my usual disclaimer that I'm not an expert. I'm just kind of doing this for my own entertainment as well as providing you guys entertainment. I'm not an expert. I don't pretend to be. Please do your own due diligence and do your own research before you make any decisions with your own money. But yeah, I guess kind of be a short introduction today, and we'll get ready to get into it. Alright guys, as you can see, we actually had a pretty good week this week, up just over 2% over the last 7 days. A lot of this was on the strength of a very good day today. As you can see, up over 1.1%, which I can be very excited about on any day. For the month, we're actually still down just a little bit, almost breaking even. A lot of that got $25 in dividends, so a lot to be excited about, I would say. For the quarter, it's still been a very good quarter. Had that little dip here over September, but over the last 2 weeks, we've kind of been on the upswing. So, and for the year and all time, still up over 1,100, almost 9%. Still trying to get to 10%, which I think is a nice number. So, see how things have done for the past week. So, in the long-term portfolio, we're looking at dividends and ETFs both over 2%. Actually, this is really one of the first times that these two have outpaced my growth. Usually that's the big winner, as we can see when I flip to all. I mean, since I've been on M1, it's up almost 20%. So very big gains there. My winners of the week, if I can get into it, I believe was Discover and Duke Energy. Both had big weeks. I can show you here. I believe both were up over 10%. Yeah, so Discover actually is almost at 12%, which is a really astounding week. Discover actually is now my all-time best investment. I'll show that here in a second. Before I get to Duke, Duke was also 10.7%. So both of those definitely the winners of the week. As far as the loser of the week, at this point, you guys can probably just assume you can find it under energy. Exxon again down almost 4.5% on the week. Exxon just continues its slide, and I will talk more about Exxon later. So as far as my actual holdings, how things are performing overall, Disney, 3M are still my two largest holdings in terms of dollar amount. But as far as my gain, Discover, on the back of its huge week, has really catapulted itself ahead of Advanced Micro Devices, which obviously still both are doing very well. And then these are all my overall big winners since I've owned them. But if we flip down, I got a couple losers. I mean, these three are almost broke even. Actually, all three of these really will pay for themselves in the dividends I'd own over the course of a year, so I'm not really worried about that. Enterprise, I mean, it at this point, like, I think it'll eventually come back. I'm not too worried about it. Exxon's the big loser, almost down 38% on that position. I'll like I said, I'll talk more about that later, kind of before we get into it. So, as far as the activity this week, actually kind of interesting. I had 2 different buying periods. So here you can see my normal bi-weekly deposit of $125 that happened today, went through. But on the 2nd, which was Friday, I made another deposit. I'm sure, as everyone knows, the president and the first lady were diagnosed with COVID. That sent futures tumbling at around midnight. So I kind of made an aggressive play, and I knew the market was going to open low, so I threw some money in, just kind of getting a little extra out of it. Kind of the first aggressive play I made in some time, and this deposit, coupled with all these dividends, I had 11 buys with 150. So this week I got dividends from SBHD, which is my big ETF that I own a lot of, Pepsi, my Vanguard Real Estate Investment Trust Fund, Coca-Cola, and then the Vanguard S&P, which is the probably most well-known ETF that's out there. So these dividends, coupled with the deposit, made 11 purchases. Well, actually, they made 11 buys, but one was excluded, as you can see here. So most of it went to 3M, AT&T, different things like that. So yeah, I was pretty pleased with what happened with that. I kind of got a high yield out of that, and I'll show you in the Excel spreadsheet if I could talk. And then today's purchases with my usual deposit, most of it went to IBM, Pepsi, and Johnson & Johnson, as well as Verizon and AT&T. So a lot of these went towards some of my highest yielding stocks, so overall pretty pleased about that. If we switch over to my Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so on my Excel spreadsheet, we can see the updated totals for my long-term portfolio, 538. Roth IRA is 3289, and Acorns, I don't really do too much with that, so I don't really talk about that. As far as what I did this week, this combined the 2 purchases at 150 and 125, plus a little bit of extra change. I added $10.79 in total dividends. Overall, the yield of the investment was 3.91%, which is pretty high. So I'm pretty pleased about that. Added over a full share of AT&T, as well as some other good paying dividend stocks. Next week I'll go back to my Roth IRA, make my biannual deposit there. So as far as the big news overall, other than having a good week, is actually in here. So this is what I'm labeling as my aggressive portfolio. It's kind of a new thing I'm playing with, or have an idea of playing with. It's kind of a more aggressive plays that don't really focus on dividends as much. As you can see, Amazon, Apple. So it's got some big names here, but then some more risky plays down here in Carnival and Exxon, 2 industries very hard hit by COVID and the economic crisis. So I'm not really sure when I'm going to put money in here. I'm probably going to hold off for a while. I kind of want to see what's going to happen with the election first, and then we'll kind of go from there. But yeah, just kind of want to show you guys this, kind of get your thoughts. If you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, also let me know that as well, because I know some of these probably aren't as popular, but I think as long as it's weighted down with like Berkshire and Apple and Amazon, I think it's still pretty safe, but it's definitely a lot more aggressive. So my Roth IRA performance for the week, like my long-term, was also pretty good. Up $17 on my $12.50. For the month, I'm actually up after a little bit of downturn, but we're coming back. So as far as my all-time, I'm finally ahead. Last week I was down, but now I'm back ahead, a little up, a little over 1%. I earned a few dividends this week. Pepsi, like I did in my long-term, as well as VOO, both paid. But in this one, I also have the total stock market index, and that also paid a dividend for the week. So overall, pretty pleased with how things are trending. I can't be too upset because all things considered, as I mentioned previously, things are things are pretty healthy, and I'm pretty excited. So, as I talked about earlier, Exxon has not been performing very well, but I still believe in Exxon and its longevity. I still think it's a very good company. I just think it's kind of had a tough year with everything going on, with the price of oil and crude oil so cheap. I think it'll survive long term, and at a point, it's really just so cheap. I mean, I'll go over here. I mean, it's $33.74. It wasn't too awfully long ago we were up $70 a share, but then obviously it collapsed, and right around here is when I initially got into Exxon. It's been all down from there, but I really believe the long term of Exxon is very strong. It just kind of needs a better situation to get going again. The dividend yield is very high. I'm just anticipating the day that they cut this, because it's over 10%, and that's probably twice what is a healthy amount. So we'll see. I mean, I'm considering just pouring some money into Exxon, kind of get my dollar cost average down. But we'll see what happens with that. That might be something that happens in the next week or so. Just kind of put money just into Exxon alone and get my dollar cost averaging down, as well as kind of get a wider position, because I think Exxon's going to come back. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it's definitely not a for sure thing, but I mean, I like to believe that it will. So we'll see what happens with that. I'll let you guys know what I'm doing, and hopefully it pays off in the long term, because maybe Exxon won't get back to that $70 range, but I definitely think it's a solid $50 share stock, and with it in the low 30s, and certainly if it crosses below 30, I'm definitely going to make the call on that, to put some money into it and pick up a few more shares. Nothing too exuberant, but I feel relatively confident about doing that, and I definitely have the risk tolerance for it. So yeah, I think that's pretty well everything going on with the portfolio this week. I'm hoping for more gains, and I think unless something else crazy happens, I think we can expect pretty well holding pattern until COVID is resolved, and as well as the election next month. We'll see what happens with that. Alright, and I think that's going to wrap things up for this video. As usual, check out the description to join M1 Finance. When you sign up and make your first deposit, you'll get $10 from them as a reward for doing so. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Always appreciate it. Helps you stay up to date. If you really like my videos, keep coming back. As well as, when I'm not posting videos, follow the Instagram and Twitter pages at bpruitt_YT. Just a way of staying up to date with me. I kind of put my thoughts on there sometimes if there's really big news through the week. I may eventually make a Facebook page, but I know my audience is a little bit younger, so really we're not as interested in Facebook. But if there's interest, I would definitely be open to doing so. And then I guess lastly, I'll part with my viewer question of the week, which is, what is the worst investment you've ever made? I mean, everyone has good investment, everyone has bad investments. I'm definitely included with that. My answer to that would probably be what I've talked about a lot this video, which is ExxonMobil. Exxon is definitely the company I've lost the most money with, but it's not the company I regret buying in, if that makes sense. I just kind of bought it at the wrong time. I thought Exxon was making a comeback in June, and I didn't want to miss out on it, but it turns out I bought it at the exact worst time. I kind of bought it near the peak of its rally through the summer, and it's been all downhill from here. But I think the long-term prospects of that, as I talked about earlier, are still strong, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, feel free to answer that question, as well as any other comments you may have, both good and bad. I just want to improve these videos so it's the best for you guys. Try to be informative as well as entertaining. But yeah, I think I'll catch you in the next video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks.